Hello everyone, welcome back to another Sandbox tutorial. Thanks for your kind words these past days and for your support as always on social media and our Discord server and our Patreon. So this time we're going to continue to have a look at properties. Apologies, last time I forgot to mention something about the checkbox properties. Where do I have this? Was it injury? Yes, here, checkbox. So I mentioned the check groups, but unfortunately I didn't mention that that every checkbox property can have more than one checkbox group. So we could have can't even remember right now between injury 1 and injury 2. So let's add injury 3 so I can explain a little bit this more in detail. So it's going to be injury 3. So you can, as I said, you can have more than one check group. So if I add the injury group to injury 2 and I add the injury group to injury 3, but then I add a semicolon and another group like test check group, and if I do the same for the injury one, if I add test to the injury one, so remember now injury 2 only has the injury check group, injury 3 has injury and test check groups, and injury 1 has only the test group. Okay, so as always we rebuild the template and we test. Oh, I did sorry, I didn't add check group 3 to the template. Injury 3. Okay, let's rebuild. Apologies. Okay, here they are. Okay, so if I mark injury 2, you see injury 3, which is this one, but I didn't change the label, is unchecked. If I check injury 1, nothing happens. But if I check injury 3, you see injury 1 is unchecked because they also share the same check group. So the possibilities of this is endless, because not only it accepts multiple check groups separated by semicolons, it also accepts role expressions, but we'll look at that later. Yeah, okay, so thanks for your patience. Let's continue then with a new property. So how are we going to call this? For now, test property. So what was the next one? The radio buttons. Okay, so we're going to call this one spell slots. Okay, so as always every property needs to have a key, so we include here the key spell slots here. Now, important, radio properties, what they create are little circles, little dots that you can check and uncheck. The important thing to remember here is that radios always need a default value. This is mandatory for radios, unlike the other properties. And the other mandatory property is max value. So let's write down here. Oh, I pressed F5 instead of 5. Sorry guys. So let's go back here, and this is going to be 5. Okay, all right, you can also choose if it's circular or square. Yeah, let's leave it at this, and let's again add it to personal info panel. Lots of things here right now, but okay, spell slots, here it is. We rebuild, reload just in case, and there they are. these are the radios. So as you can see, I can check from 5 to 1, and to remove the last one and empty all the radios, just click on the X, and that's it. Yeah, as easy as that. So not much to say about radios. Let me see, there's nothing else, because they have the same properties than before, nothing new except the radio type, because if I change it, they're going to be displayed as squares. That's it. Okay, next property, let me check text areas. Okay, let's create a note property, note, and this is going to be, the key is going to be notes. We select text area, we include no tag. Normally it's not needed, because I should remove this because it's just a box and it doesn't look very good. Okay, so one important thing about the text area is that the height is going to be defined by the input size. Okay, so if you leave it with fit, the text area is going to adapt to the height, and probably it's not going to occupy everything, but just up to a maximum. And then these three, small, medium, large, I'm changing these ones here, okay, small, medium, large, are going to set the maximum height of the text area. Okay, so once we have our, let's add it to the attributes one. Okay, to attributes panel, to change this time. We'll add it here. We rebuild the template, reload here, and here it is. Here's the text area. Unfortunately, text areas are very simple in terms of CSS, so not much in terms of styling. You can change the font while inputting text or writing. So this is what we got. You can always change the CSS with the template and all that stuff that we'll look at in later tutorials. Okay, now not much to say about text areas, because they don't have different options unlike the other properties. So next one is the list properties. Okay, so let's create a property called class, for example. Yeah, class as key too, and we select list, and as tag is we're going to have class. So when you choose the list data type, automatically a new field called options ABC, separated by commas, no spaces in between, as always. So what does this mean? So I can have an element of the list called great mage with a space in between, and then a comma, and the next one would be warrior. Okay, but the important thing to remember here is no space, no blank spaces right after the comma. Okay, because then Sandbox gets crazy, so be careful with this. So you can add blank spaces to each option of the list, but not immediately after the comma. Okay, so you can have great mage, warrior, and rogue. Okay, again, no spaces right after the commas. The default value is great mage. This can be tricky. So yeah, normally it's going to choose this first one. Yeah, this first option. But if you have an auto property dependent on the list, can give you problems. So I always recommend to include the default value here, also because you might want the default value to be the second value of the list instead of the first one. So yeah, just just in case, try to input the default value for the list. Yeah. Okay, let's, sorry, I didn't add it to the personal info panel. Class, we rebuild, there you go, we reload, there you go, and here you have it. So because OBS doesn't show you the list, but yeah, I'm right now selecting from the list. If I click warrior, you see it changes to warrior. If I click rogue, it changes to rogue. Yeah, so that's fine. Not much more than that. I know that a lot of people has requested auto functionality for lists and for checkboxes and things like that. It's going to be implemented soon, as soon as I finish these tutorials and the wiki, because I'm not finding the time for these two tasks. But soon we'll have the option of have auto lists, so you can, every one of the values can be dependent of an auto calculation or things like that. Yeah. The same is to be said to the checkboxes. The auto option will also be included. Remember when we tested auto options for the simple numeric, yes, it will be something similar. Okay, we'll look into this with more detail soon. Next, label. Okay, this is very easy. So imagine that you only want to have a word or something or a sentence. Okay, so to have that, you can use the label property. Let's raise label. Okay, raise label. So detail raise label as key. Label, as you can see, when we select label as the data type, most of the options are removed because label is just a word or just a sentence. So raise, here what happened, okay, sorry, raise, here you have it. Yeah, the tag that is going to appear and the tooltip. Labels can also be rollable. This is also an interesting options if you only want to have a word somewhere in the character sheet that you can click and activate a roll. Okay, so if I now add it to the panel, raise label, here it is. Okay, and I rebuild the template. Here you get it, raise right below the class. Okay, as simple as that. Okay, next property, not much to say about labels, so they follow the same rules. Then so you can even select them to be with the label format to be just a die, a symbol of a die. Okay, all right, next one is, I forgot, next one is badge, and I think with that one, badge, just a second, badge. Okay, so what are badge properties? So for games in which you need kind of tokens that count something, like inspiration in D&D or bennies in Savage World or fate points for Fate, sometimes it's very useful to have a token counter that could be visual, and you can click and use one of those tokens. Yeah, so let's call this fate points, this property, and as I said, use a badge property. Fate points as key, and fade PTS as a label. Okay, so what's important for the badge to work? Again, a default value, exactly like radios, and a max value of 5. Okay, so let's add this to the personal info panel. It is, and we add the fade points. We rebuild, and here it is. We reload fade points, as you can see. So it's kind of a token that if it's editable for the players will also see this plus button. So if you click it, yeah, you see the number tops up, and we can't go over 5. It follows the same rules as the maximum for the rest of the other properties and simple numeric properties. As you can see, the same rules for tops, visible, and max value. No, visible doesn't apply here. Probably I'll have to remove this one, make it invisible when badge is selected, but for now the top is respected. Default value was 1, so if I click the 5, boom, as you can see here, fade points uses 1, the total remaining right now are 4. Okay, very useful for these kind of games again. Okay, so this is more or less the rest of the basic properties, and as we have a little bit of time, let's start with the last 2 properties are the kind of the most complicated ones because they require extra stuff. So let's remove all properties from let's remove age, height, let's keep AB, let's remove the injuries, let's remove the spell slots, let's make it simple, let's remove the class, let's keep the race level, let's remove the fate points, and we remove the background too, and we make it a 2 columns panel for this one. Yeah, let's rebuild because my intention is to show you something right now. Okay, that's perfect. So the next property I'm going to talk about is the most complicated property, is the table property. So as the name implies, table is a table, okay, with rows and columns. Yeah, the thing here is that every single table needs a group. So let's create a table for the skills. Yeah, this is going to be called skills table as a property. We select table, and you see everything changes because this is the most complicated and the changes are very different than the rest. We type skill table all together as a key, and now the first thing that requires is a group. To drop here a group. What is a group? A group is a number, is a collection of properties, is an item for Sandbox that collects a number of properties. Those properties are going to be the columns of our table. So I created a folder in previous tutorials for groups, and we're going to create our first group, which is going to be skill group. Yeah, we select group from the list box here, and we create the item. So as always, we have 3 panels. For the details, it is very important, as always, to introduce a key. Every Sandbox element needs a key, and we input here skill group all together as the group. Unique, we look at this later on. For now, for this example, let's keep it not unique. And there's a panel, there's a tab, sorry, in which you can add the properties of these groups. Now, what do we want to show in this skill table? So I want a name for the skill. I want a modifier for the skill. and I want a role button. Okay, so we need three properties that we're going to create. One is going to be skill name, and obviously skill name is going to be a simple text, okay, because I want to write the name of the skill. The tag is going to be name. It's a simple text, nothing else is needed there. So this is the first thing that I'm going to add. As you can see, there's something new here. There's a checkbox here in a column called constant. What does this mean? So if this is checked, it means that this particular cell in the table for every row is not going to be able to be changed. You cannot change this cell in the table, yeah? But we want to be able to change the name of the skill, okay? So we make it variable. Now, the next property is skill modifier, skill mod. This is going to be a simple numeric. Skill mod all together, and we write here modifier, the default value is 0, and that's it. And we add it to our group. Again, by default, every property is constant, so we remove it because we want to be able to change the modifier. And finally, we need to roll something. And I need an icon for that with a D20 or something like that to roll this. So I create a last property called skill roll. We only need a label here, and we're going to make the label format. We're going to select die, yeah, as key skill roll, and here roll, and we make it rollable, of course, yeah. We're not going to fill anything there for the moment, so we add skill roll. It's constant, but do we need it to be variable? No, it's just to roll. It's always going to have the same formula, so for us it's no big deal. Okay, so we have our first group, the skill group, and we want to link this group to this table. So we want to see in this table three columns: name of the skill, modifier of the skill, and a roll icon button to roll the skill. Now, going back to the table, skill table property, where we had the drop group here, so that's what we're going to do. We drop it here, okay, and here it is, and it appears here. Now, the rest of the options, editable. Okay, if I unclick it, the table will only be editable by the game master. So, okay, so we click it again because in this case it's not important for us. Has header, so if this is checked, there's going to be a header for the table where we can see the names of the columns, so we want that too. Column name, this means the name of the first column, and the name of the first column in wherever in non-free table, so I'll have to change this, okay, so don't worry about this right now. Is free. As for this example, we're going to check is free. We'll see what it means later. Okay, is it transferable? It means can you drag items from one table to another character table? No, we don't want that right now. Height, free height. So we want the table to fit the number of rows. Yeah, if we select small, medium, or tall, any of those, the height of the table is going to be fixed. Yeah. And it's not going to change with the number of rows. Then item names, yes, no, only names. This is also only important for non-free table, so this is something that I'll have to change in the near future. But for now, just forget about it. Show units, no. Show users, no. Show activation, no. And show totals, no, as for this example, yeah, but I'll have to do the same for the non-free. Okay, Now let's add this table to the skills panel. Okay, and let's rebuild this. Oppa. Now we reload and look at what happened here. Now we have under the panel, the skills panel, we have the header of the table, name, mod, and role, with the 3 properties that we added for the group, and this little plus button. This plus is there because our table, the skills table, is a free table. Free table is free, here checked. Okay, that means that we can create the elements on the fly just by clicking this plus. Here you have it, name of the skill, athleticism. Okay, modifier 4, and you see my cursor over this button turns the button red, so it means that I can roll that property, and we can add as many as we want. Swim, for example, with modifier 2, whatever. Yeah, so this is a free table, as I said, so you can create the rows and the elements on the fly. But let's assume we don't want this. We want to have the skills to be items in our game, in our system, in our world, that we can drag and drop to here, and these items can be checked on independently in pop-out windows. Yeah, so for that we need to uncheck the is free button. Yeah, when we uncheck the is free button, we turn this table into a table that only accepts draggable items called C items. Okay, let's perform a little change on this skill group. Let's remove the skill name. Okay, and I'm gonna add it again just in case, and let's test what happens here. Let's see. I hope I didn't make a mistake. Okay, now once the table is not free, we don't have that plus. Okay, and this table will only accept C items of the skill group. What is a C item? A C item comes from compendium item, so it means that is an item, is an element of the game that is going to contain information. Yeah, it can be skills, weapons, I don't know, gear, armor, potions, whatever you think that it could be. Many items, and that could contain descriptions and attributes and elements. Yeah, so let's call this first athleticism. This is going to be the athleticism skill, and we choose in the type C item. Okay, C items have 4 tabs: info, attributes, groups, and mods. So the info, as always, this skill represents blah 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 blah. Okay, there you have it. And then we have attributes, groups, and mods. We are just going to have a brief look at the attributes and groups. Every C item needs a group, and we want the C item to be displayed in this table, so it needs the same group of this table. Okay, so we add the skill group. Here we have it. We dragged it, and here we have it. The skill group, remember, has some properties. So if we click the attributes tab, we can see the variable, the properties that this group has, which is mod. Role is just a label, so as we cannot change it, we leave it as it is. Okay. So we could define the default value of the mod, or the modifier for this athleticism, but let's leave it like this. Okay. So now if I drag athleticism to the table, boom, here we have it. You see item here? You see item here in the first column? Is because when we defined a non-free table, when we define a non-free table, the first column, the column of the name of the element, will display this tag, the column name tag. Okay? Now, what makes the difference here is that if I put the cursor over the first column, it turns blue. That means that if I click it, boom, the C item opens in a different window and it can display the information. So I could have, I don't know, a lot of skills that I could drag onto character sheets, and the players could, to know what that specific skill does, they would only have to click on them and check the pop-up and the information. Okay, so this is basic tables. Yeah, basic tables explanation. Next, we already passed the 30 minutes. Next tutorial is going to be advanced tables, okay? And we're going to speak specifically of tables, yeah? And we're going to go through all these strange options here, and we're going to do a lot of we're going to play a lot with it, and you're going to see everything you can do with a table. Yeah, let's remove our skill. So that's it. So if you like Sandbox, if you see the potential in it, come join our Discord server, support me on Patreon, and again, just talk about Sandbox to everyone. Create your worlds, share them with us in our Discord server, and have fun with it. That's the first rule. So thanks a lot, and see you on the next tutorial.